Um, and our next presentation will be about one of my favorite topics, food and personalization. Please welcome Michael, CEO of Plant Jammer. He will join us online. So let's wait. Yeah. Hi, Michael.
Hello, how's it going?
Yeah. Full room of people waiting for your presentation.
Wonderful, wonderful. Great to be here. I'm sad I can't be there in person. I'm out of Copenhagen, Denmark. But I will present here a little bit about what we do in Plant Jammer related to food. I'm going to start with a few slides just here. 1 second. All right. So what I'm going to talk about here is how we use AI for food and personalization. And what's really important is normally when we talk about AI, it's about basically choosing for you, right? We see patterns and then we provide to you what you're most likely to choose anyway. What we do is in food is slightly different because what we do in food within Plant Jammer is using AI to give you choice. So rather than choosing for you, we actually provide options you would not normally have by using AI algorithms. And that's important because in the area of food, there are so many options of what we could eat that actually choosing just one option is almost impossible in AI, but you can provide people with options that they can choose between and then give them personalization. And that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about. I'm going to first talk about the what. So what is it exactly that we do? So show you an example of how it feels. Then I'm going to show you the why. So why do we use AI for this? Why is AI sort of an enabler of making that possible at all? And then the how. So how is AI playing a role in all this? Because we're not providing a product where AI is being screamed at your face. It's happening in the background. So I'll show you a little bit of that. So if you're technically inclined, don't worry, we will talk about the how and get into the AI of this. But we start with food, and that's an exciting topic always. So first of all, the what. So what we do in Plant Jammer is we build an AI that gets to know you. So Plant Jammer, we use this AI to create dynamic recipes that people can personalize and that you're getting suggestions with. And then we are publishing those dynamic recipes on sites of food brands called CPGs, consumer packaged goods, and retailer sites. So everyone who tries to inspire people with recipes. This enables them to capture, they create a great experience for people on recipes we're going to show, but then they capture what are the individual diets, nutrition goals, favorite tastes of your customers. And you get that in real time. And that means basically you use that in the rest of your business to create greater positioning and greater food product development. So at a highest level, we're working with a bunch of great partners, one of them being RIGA, across the Baltics. And I'm going to show you a little bit what we do now. So basically at the highest level, this is the sort of dichotomy you need to know about. So we provide an AI-based recipe experience I'm going to show you. That you can also try if you take a picture of this. There's a little QR code that will open the experience, but I'm going to show you as well. And then as people engage, we're learning what do people love and what do people hate. And that's really the bulk of it. I'm going to go into the details now. So first of all, how does it feel? So here's an experience. Live demo, it's always dangerous. So basically the experience is that I, as an end user, I start picking a few ingredients I want to cook with, for instance, for emptying my fridge. Then I say find dynamic recipes, and the AI actually finds recipes that other users like you tended to like, but you're getting a lot of suggestions. And I might say, okay, that's fine, but I actually want something vegan. And now it veganizes all these recipes, and I want something Mexican rather than all these Asian options. And I'm going with a grain salad. Now what's happening is actually the AI creates a recipe based on your ingredients and fulfills the recipe on top with recipes that will make it Mexican, but also make it capture good flavor. Now I get much many options because the AI provides you suggestions, but you can change them. So if you feel like cilantro tastes like soap, you click the cilantro and you get other suggestions. So I'm just going to add some garlic instead. And by the way, if you feel like this is a fine dish, but I want to add more flavor, then you get more suggestions. You can get cilantro back in or put in some ginger. So you made a lot of choices here, and the AI enables you to actually get a recipe that you chose. So you chose all these ingredients, You can obviously change portions and so on, but the most important part is you had a lot of choices along this way. And that's really at the core of what we do, is providing you with options. And obviously all these options are becoming data points that teaches us what do you love and what do you hate. So this person didn't like cilantro, right? And that experience is then what we put into these dashboards. Now, what's important is why. Why do we build this at all? And why using AI for it, by the way? Why wouldn't you just have a big recipe database so you can search from? Now, it's actually a combinatorial problem. So if you want to find a recipe tonight with ingredients in front of you, let's say you have 500 ingredients available. That's like the 500 most common ingredients. We have about 1,000 in our database, but there's 500 common ones that you normally find in the supermarket. And an average dish has about 8 ingredients in it. Now, if you remember your math, you can do the combinatorial factor, and you get 10 to the 17th number of different options of ingredient pairs. If you then do, based on the algorithms that we have, say don't take things that go badly together, so only do great food pairings, then you're getting a little bit of a slightly different algorithm. You get 240 million kinds of recipes that could work well. And that's just the food pairing part. Then you're adding the level of kinds of dishes you have, and you're ending up with 24 billion great recipes that you could be cooking with 500 different ingredients to choose from, and just choosing 8 ingredients. 24 billion. And there's no recipe database that's bigger than about 1 million. So we're getting a 24,000 factorial problem that we just don't have big enough recipe databases to empty your fridge and cook with what you have. And that's why we brought an AI in instead. An AI that gives you options, but doesn't choose for you. And the way that the AI works, I'm going to talk to now. So we're getting from the why to the how. So the how. So the way that this works is that, first of all, we taught a neural network about food pairing. So we took about 2.5 million different recipes, gave an AI a chance to learn from them and see what ingredients go well together. And we built this neural network of which ingredients go well together in a multifactorial setting. And we, on top of that, added a layer of learning. So we learned what ingredients go well together, also why. So for instance, we started seeing patterns that, any dish that's successful out there always has something sour, something sweet, something umami, and something crunchy. So we're tagging ingredients based on that, and also nudging the AI to always make sure that that happens. That's the neural network of food pairing, and that's what enables us to provide with you what could you use instead of cilantro in this dish, as you saw before. Then there's a second part of the sort of the setting we have, which is we build structural gastronomy models on top, so that each ingredient in a particular dish has to abide by certain volumes, given that it's a dish. So in a risotto, if you are only picking mushrooms in a risotto, you have certain volumes of mushrooms. But if you're also adding broccoli to the dish, suddenly you have less mushroom to balance it off. So having these balances of flavors is something we built in a you can say the old school AI model of basically setting up structural models for it. And then there's what we call blueprints, which is basically, there's one chef called Mark Bittman in the US who says that there's only 8 recipes in the world, and everything is a branch out of those 8 core recipes. So what we did was define those. It's not 8, we have defined about 200 different kinds of recipes that exist, and we made the blueprints for those recipes so that they can adapt to all kinds of ingredients. And those are the instructions. So you have the right temperature and time along with the volumes. And this enables us to get to this third aspect of the engine, where we don't just have a recipe in the database, we have what we call a dish. And the dish is composed by the volume ratios between ingredients, the blueprints that are possible, and the food pairing based ingredients. When you combine those 3 things, you get an actual recipe. And that means you can make millions of different risottos, even though it's just one dish. And that's what makes it possible for us to abide by the combinatorial problem, whereby we suddenly actually can make the 22 billion different recipes possible, and we can give you all the options. And this is only enabled because we use these AI methods, both structural, old school AI of just creating very good if then else logic, and the neural network of food pairing that work together to make this possible. And that's a way to go away from the AI that chooses for you towards an AI that actually guides you. And a core principle of all that is that we build these gastronomical models in the middle. So the gastronomical models in the middle enables you to not just give you a suggestion, but give you a why. so that you actually know that the reason why I'm getting something here is because it's umami. And you're learning a little bit along the way. You build this trust. That means you get confidence as a home chef to actually cook a little bit more because you're learning something, not just being pushed a recipe directly. And that's really the power of going from an AI model that just chooses for you to one that gives you options. So why is this valuable? You get to understand a user better if you're a food brand or a retailer, and that enables you to take better decisions. So once you understand who my customers are, you can do better product development, choose what goes on the aisle in the supermarket. You know your customers' tastes and preferences, you have higher success rates in products. Basically, 35% of food products that are being launched, they fail. They go within 18 months, they're off the aisle again because they didn't create enough sales per square meter. So if we know our customers better, we can know better predictive behavior around whether they want it, and we can build the right products and choose the right products on the aisle. Then we can do better product positioning because we know which preferences are most important. So we know that when is vegan important, when is organic important, and finally we can, with this kind of data, we can actually test launch it direct to consumer by making the recipe shoppable and put them online. So that really gives you the database and the understanding of my customer that increases the likelihood of success. So let me make it a little bit concrete with an example. So we worked with a food brand called Naturli', which is a Danish plant-based food brand, and they had this challenge that they wanted to empower flexitarians. Right? They had a very strong customer group among vegans, but they didn't know how do we go beyond vegans and actually serve this to all the people who just want to eat plant-based once a week. So instead of going to their normal audiences, we helped them actually build this recipe experience for flexitarians, targeted them on social media, and realized from all their choices what are the most popular search terms, what are the most popular ingredients, and could learn along with them that actually for them, if you look at only the flexitarians that are inclined to their brand, the best choice for a sort of flagship product was a plant-based cream cheese that's positioned as a pizza base. That's the lower base of a white pizza. And they would have to talk about high protein content and umami Italian flavors without choking shallots. And that's what we did with them. It could launch very easily without even going on supermarket aisles, launch on Amazon Fresh, and have a success from the beginning, even before they go to supermarkets. So that's what data can do when you start using AI to give you options. So basically, they could have gone two ways, right? They could have spent 3 to 6 months getting these general reports from expert consultancies like your Kantars or GfK or Euromonitor of this world, and then they would have a report that would give them a generic hypothesis about consumer trends. But with this approach of using AI in front of people that gives them options, you're getting data very fast. So real time, they could, with a very little budget, in 2 weeks, get exact target group data on customer insights that could get them to have a validated product much earlier and much more validated. And that's really the power of using AI this way. So if you find this interesting, I'm going to open up for a lot of questions now. Hopefully, we can talk about what food pairings are interesting or not. We can talk about the technology itself. But at the highest level, if you want to try this out, it's actually for free to put it on the site. You only pay if you want to have the database and the dashboards coming thereafter. And you could feel free to write to me on michael@plantjammer.com. But that is the big sort of what of what we're developing, how we're using AI to build a unique product. Why we're doing it? Because AI can actually empower freedom of choice in a way that actually enables people to stop food waste and cook with what they have. And the how, where we talked a little bit about how the AI works in particular.
Okay, that's all, Michael?
That is all.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure we will have a lot of questions. Let's start with mine. So generating all these recipes for some time, do you have already recognized some hot deals or some super recipes that comes into probably printable book maybe after that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we found is actually some really interesting food pairings as well that people tend to like and they come back to. Because what's interesting with this is what we see is when people they pick something you'd say weird, that they don't only pick once but they continue picking. So over the course of periods of time, you see okay they actually had an experiment here and it worked because they keep on doing so. And then I take it to my kitchen, I try it myself, and then realize actually we should start writing about this. So one example is a food pairing that we came up with based on aromatics, and it's squash or zucchini and banana, which are two things that don't normally go together. But actually, it's two ingredients that have similar aromas, and that's why it came high in the pairing. And then when we started proposing to people, we saw a clear pattern. People keep on picking it. So a very simple, very quick, fresh salad I can recommend to you is zucchini, banana, and then you're gonna need some balance. So you're gonna have something sour because the banana is very sweet, right? So some lemon, a bit of almonds that you toast on a frying pan for crunch, which is really important for texture complementarity, and actually put a bit of soy sauce and any spice. I recommend coriander seeds to that one. That was one that came really high. So that's a very sort of fresh, summery dish. Salt, don't forget that. The very fresh summery dish that you would normally never make, right? Zucchini and banana, they don't come together normally, but it works fantastically, and it's something that people come back to once they try it.
Yeah, sounds interesting. So, is it possible to give a feedback to your application and and say that I made it, but it's interesting. So, and system probably could suggest a different setup.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what happens in the engine? There's several ways that we get feedback from users that we're then putting back into the learning. So one is that because you're doing all the substitutions, you would see it right away there. So we have people who go in, try it out, go back, take an ingredient out, and that's already one big data point, because that's at a granular level, sort of okay, what didn't work for you. Then the second part is if you build a recipe and you then the day after build a similar recipe, but change the ingredients, and you get another data observation directly from behavior in the kitchen. And then the third one is just very directly. We have at the end of the journey, you're giving a net promoter score. So how likely are you to recommend this recipe to a friend? And then you're also giving qualitative comments on top. So we're going through those comments every day and learning on top, and actually adding that into the algorithm, so that we do a relearning of the engine once a week, based on those behavior. And we have several ways of doing that. One is just to retrain everything, and the other one is to add, I think the technically inclined here will know about this, but you can add masks, which are basically saying, okay, that's fine, but actually we learned that, zucchini is not great with tuna, and even the engine showed so in the past. We can actually hard code the fact that, okay, let's lower the range for that particularly. So we do that on a regular basis, really sort of learning along the way. And the newest thing is that we're doing that on a personal level as well, so that you actually, once you take away the cilantro, coriander, then you will not get it recommended the day after either.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from audience? You want to ask, Michael? No? Everyone already hungry, waiting for a break. So, do you have any paper cooking books at home?
I do, but this is the problem, right? It's basically a piece of furniture to have a cookbook, right? Because you're having it there, it's beautiful, but you don't use it. And that's actually exactly what we learned is 90% of people, they cook less than 10 different recipes per year, right? So that means that you go by the 10 usuals, and all of your diversity of cooking is not based on the fact you're really changing, fundamentally what you cook. You're just substituting a few ingredients, taking a few things out and a few things into that pasta you know so well. That's really how we cook. And that's also, the symptom of that is we buy a lot of cookbooks, but we don't really open them very much. So we don't go by different recipes, neither do I, but I'm trying to expand that repository beyond the 10, and then within the 10 of those core recipes, really learning, okay, actually it's fine to take out the almond and put in the sunflower seeds. And by the way, in this particular dish, you can use cinnamon instead of cumin, and then you get a dramatically different flavor, but it's still it's tasteful. So it's really Yes, I have cookbooks, but I don't use them. And what I learned along the way, it's much more about the adaptations that are small, that are really powerful. Like when you have a dish, a recipe, and then you're adapting it. And there's so much amazing data out there of people who do that on a regular basis that's been lost. Because if they don't using a tool like what we have here, they're making all these adaptations that's telling us stuff about what they like and don't like, but it's invisible. It's not digital, it's invisible. And for that reason, no one can learn from it, and we cannot provide better food products based on it. And that's really a big premise of what we do, is to make that visible, all that behavior that's basically 95% of cooking that you don't see because you take a recipe and you adapt it to you personally.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and thanks for Michael. Yeah. And that was our final presentation in the first session. Now we are going to break and returning 1:10 and continuing with use cases in retail, e-commerce, and insurance. Yeah, let's see you in our